Good afternoon, everyone. It is Sunday, the 11th of July, 2021. My name is Sarah, and this is Flosstube number 5. Welcome to everyone who has come along to watch today. If you're new, thank you very much. I hope that you enjoy what you see. And if you're returning, thank you even more for coming back to hear a little bit more of my ramblings and my stitchy stories. It has been great to continue chatting with some of you through the comments and getting to know you all a little bit more. Thank you for your suggestions about what else I might show in future episodes, and I am taking that all on board. Today is probably going to be a little bit more whistle stop because I'm squeezing things in between a kind of a hectic schedule. So it was either just get on with it or not get a floss tube out at all. So I hope you'll forgive me that it might be a little bit quick today. I want to say thank you to Joanne Beaudry, Joanne contacted me by email after watching my Flosstube extra on how to wrap an embroidery hoop with fabric. And Joanne contacted me to let me know that she had tried the tutorial and that this was her result. Isn't it wonderful? Joanne, thank you so much. It's actually a relief to know that the tutorial has worked for someone. And I'm so glad that you found it easy to follow and so successful. And your little Canada wreath Canada Day design looks absolutely beautiful. I love how you have your cross stitch hanging in the centre of the wreath, and I'm so glad that the tutorial worked for me, and I'm so glad that you reached out to let me know that. It was really nice of you, so thanks a million, Joanne. I also made some contact with Carmen, who is the winner of my 1000 subscriber giveaway. Carmen, your parcel is in the post. I hope it won't be too long before it reaches you. But it was really nice to have a little email chat with you to find out more about you and where you live. Carmen lives in California, right near Yosemite. So it was really good to learn a little bit more about this world and this new neighbourhood that I'm engaging in. Since the last time, life has been a little bit hectic here, to say the least. School is out. My Charlotte is not adjusting to the lack of school routine terribly well, so she's finding that difficult, which makes life a little bit more tricky for us. And also then my dad went in for an operation at short notice. So it wasn't an emergency situation. We knew he needed the operation, but there was short notice availability for him to go in and have the operation. And it was a pretty big op. He's doing really well, so that's good news. It's just been a bit more tricky running back and forward to the hospital, and now he is home, but he needs some care. Actually, he's pretty good. What he needs more than anything is somebody to stop him from doing too much. So I'm heading back and forward between my home and his just to help him out with laundry and meals and that kind of thing, just as you do. So it's nothing that the rest of you don't experience from time to time, and this is just my time. So it has kind of meant that the last few weeks have been rather busier than I expected in that sense, and lots have been going on, but maybe not just so much stitching. That's okay. Now is obviously not the time. So what else has happened? Oh yes, my two men, my lovely husband and my wonderful son, went to the Lake District in England to undertake a challenge. It's called the Bob Graham Round, and it is a circular route in the Lake District across the mountains. It is an endurance challenge which has to be completed within 24 hours. It's 106 kilometres in total run, 8,000 metres of climb, for those of you interested in these kinds of stats. 8,000 metres of climb and 42 mountain peaks. So crazy people seem to like to do this, get together. Actually, they don't get together because you can just do it as an individual or as a couple or a small group. So it's not a it doesn't happen once a year and you go. So you plan and you go when it suits you to do this. So my hubby and son have been in training for this. They've been planning to do it, and they wanted to raise some money for the Children's Heartbeat Trust here in Northern Ireland. Charlotte, as I've mentioned before, was born with Down syndrome, and part of that meant that she was born with some heart complications. And the Children's Heartbeat Trust are a charity that support Northern Ireland families when their children have congenital heart issues. And for us, they supported us when we had to go take Charlotte to London for specialist surgery. But they do great work supporting all kinds of programs and projects for children and young people with various heart conditions. So my two men decided that since they were going to tackle this challenge, they would raise a little bit of money for one of the charities that has supported Charlotte, and the Children's Heartbeat Trust was the charity we chose this time. They completed their challenge. I think it was a really, really tough challenge, but I'm very proud of them both. Proud of Andrew for being 19 and tackling it and kicking it, and I'm proud of hubby for keeping up with a 19-year-old. They had a great support crew who were there to help them, to motivate them, encourage them, run alongside them, prepare meals for them, because they only stopped for 15 minutes at a time to have meals, waters, put sun cream on, whatever it was. So it was a huge achievement, and I'm very proud of them. And the Heartbeat Trust has benefited to the tune of £2,200 so far as a result. So that's what's been happening in our lives, and as you can see, we've been busy. I promised last time that I would show you a little bit more of the area where I live. So I live in a little place called Holt, and it's not really exactly a place. It's a crossroads and some housing developments now in the middle of what would have been fields before. So it's pretty rural, but there are also quite a number of houses where we are. Our local amenities are found in a village which is about 4 miles away, and that's a village called Hillsborough. And Hillsborough is probably where I would really, really, really like to live, but probably never will. Especially now that it has been given royal status recently, so I think very soon it will be able to be known as Royal Hillsborough, which is probably going to push the enormous house prices up even higher. So I will watch from afar in Holt. But it is our local village, so I do get to enjoy the local amenities there. And once I have dropped off my little hurricane to school in the mornings, I like to go in and do whatever I need to do, maybe go to the post office or pop into the convenience store or whatever. And then I'll go for a walk around the village just to get some steps in and give myself some fresh air and headspace. The village itself is small, but obviously, like lots of places, is growing. It's growing with new housing and families just around the outskirts. But the centre of the village is essentially a Y shape of 3 streets that meet together in a Y shape. And when I go for a walk in the morning, I'm able to park at one point of the Y and walk the whole route of that, just for a quick walk before I have to get back and go to work and do other things. But it's a pretty walk, and I thought you might appreciate seeing a few pictures of what's en route. So at the bottom in the centre of the Y, there's a beautiful church with a very long a long drive up to it. I mean a driveway, not a drive, up to it. And that is St Malachy's Church of Ireland Parish Church. And it's just beautiful. The morning that I photographed was a very nice sunny morning. So I managed to get good pics, and you can see the War Memorial there in the foreground of the Celtic Cross War Memorial, and the memorial bench there that's also in front. It's not a great picture, but it's a more recent addition. So that's one of the lovely views on my walk. After the church, I'll head on up the hill. It's not called Hillsborough for nothing. And at the top of the hill, on the left, are some beautiful wrought iron gates. And through the archway of the gates, you can go down what is known as the Dark Walk. Obviously, in my picture, it's a very light day, so it's not dark. This is a long walk that really links the main village street to the fort, to Hillsborough Fort. And they use this walk in the winter time to have a Christmas fair, and it's all very atmospheric. If you can imagine, stalls set up with local artisans, local food, local ceramics and candles and fudge makers, and it's stalls and twinkly lights, and then and the local schools will play carols. They will have slots allocated to lots of the local schools that play carols, and it's very atmospheric. But at the end of the Dark Walk is the entrance to the fort, which is a curious building. That fort building is there, but in behind it is like a square, almost like a courtyard, but it's just full of grass. It hasn't been open for quite some time, and we can't work out if that's a COVID thing or if they're doing some renovations to it, perhaps, because there's been quite a lot of work gone on at the Forest Park, which is just right behind the fort. There's a beautiful forest park where we often go for walks, and there's a lovely lake. So basically there's like a loop, a circular loop of the lake and a forest park. So that's Hillsborough Fort and Forest Park. And then across the road, as I cross the road to come back down again, I'll pass by Hillsborough Castle. Now here's a picture that I took the morning I was out for a walk, and you can see that the Union flag is flying on Hillsborough Castle, and that's because Hillsborough Castle is a royal palace. And yes, it's very tricky because Northern Ireland is partitioned from Ireland legally, controversially, and I'm not going to get into all of that today. But Northern Ireland is part of the UK, and Queen Elizabeth is our head of state. And so this is her royal residence if and when she or any of the other members of the royal family come to Northern Ireland. They will stay in Hillsborough Castle. It's not a true castle, it's more of an Irish big house, and then became a royal palace sometime later. I'm not entirely sure of the history, so forgive me. But it is beautiful, and from the village, this side where I walk at, this is what you can see, this entrance. It's very pretty. There's a lot of work been done in the castle and the gardens and the grounds in the last number of years, because they have now opened it up as much more of a visitor attraction. Years ago that wouldn't have been the case for security reasons, but they've done an awful lot of work, and it really is very beautiful. And you can see from this picture, which is around at the back of the castle, just how lovely it is, really. And I will add a YouTube link below where you can go and have a little look at the official video for the castle. It's the Royal Palace's video, and it's just a few minutes. But if you are interested and you like looking at that kind of thing, they'll show the gardens and how they've been reworked, and a little bit of the inside of the palace. So that is Hillsborough. And as I say, recently Hillsborough has been given royal status. So this is an official title that some places are then allowed to call themselves royals, and it's something royal. Like in England, there's Royal Leamington Spa and different places like that. So now we will be Royal Hillsborough. The Queen has conferred that status upon the village. So it's quite an honour. And as I said, it'll probably just make the place even more expensive. So I just thought this next shot of the street as you walk down is really pretty. It gives you an idea of the lovely housing that's available in the village. Different styles of houses, lovely doorways, and look at this wisteria. And I wish that you had smell-o-vision because it was absolutely wonderful for the couple of weeks when it was well in bloom. So the village is full of those kinds of pretty older style houses. Some of them are different styles, like Georgian styles and cottages, and then there will be old cottage houses that have been made into coffee shops or pubs, gift shops. So it's got everything that we would need to be quite comfortable, and it's a very pretty place to be. I hope you've enjoyed seeing a little bit about it. As I said, if you wanted to, you could have a look at the YouTube link that shows you a little bit more about Hillsborough Castle. I hope you enjoyed that, and now it's time to get on with some stitching. As I said, time has been a bit tight, so I haven't maybe done as much stitching as I'd like, but I have managed a bit late at night when I've managed everything else. It's been a way to unwind. Unfortunately, it's also been a way to unpick a number of occasions, because some nights really you just shouldn't when you're tired. But it hasn't been too bad. It hasn't been too bad. You know that I changed my daily thread project, so I'm not doing Be Happy Needlepoint Tapestry this month as my daily thread. This month I'm doing Jacob Modern Folk Embroidery Home Sweet Home as my daily thread, because I wanted to keep making some progress on that. And this month, so far anyway, the daily thread has allowed me to complete this side of the house. So I've been able to finish the shrubbery and the tree and the numbers up here. And I think that's not bad. I also made a small start on the urn that will be the same as this one on this side. So I think that's reasonable for a single thread a day. I did have some questions about thread a day, sort of through Instagram, and people making suggestions. So really if you are interested in doing a project like this where you have a daily thread, make it how you want it to be. But somebody did ask, what do you mean by a thread? Do you mean the full a full length of the 6 strands, or do I mean just the 1 strand, or what exactly do I mean when I say thread a day? So what I would say is make it how you want. If you want to cut an 18-inch length and use all 6 strands and call that your daily thread, do it. That's not what I do. What I do is literally whatever is required to fill my needle once. So with the daily thread for the Be Happy needlepoint, that was wool. So I only had the 1 strand of wool. You know, you're not separating the wool into different strands. So I cut 1 length of wool and I used that 1 length in the needle. For this, I'm using 2 strands at a time. So I'll cut 2 strands and work them in. So I pull 2 strands out of the 6, load my needle, stitch them in, and that's my daily thread. So you can do it how you want. I've seen a lot of people like Michelle Bendy Stitches and others who are doing something called 25/7, which means that they stitch for 25 minutes, 7 days a week. And it's the same idea, but they're not using 1 strand. Their measure is 25 minutes on something every day of the week. So I just choose to do a daily thread. And that's what I consider my daily thread, is whatever the project is, whatever is required in the needle once, that's my daily thread. So load your needle once and that's your daily thread. But you can set the rules yourself, so do whatever makes you happy and whatever gets you a little bit of progress. I had a new start because I joined the Tudor Bee cell. Tudor Bee, if you haven't seen it, is this pattern from the Blue Flower, Janine McGowan. This was a release at Expo in March, and it's gorgeous. and Kim Goldman, and that's Kim at the Contented Stitcher, and Amanda at Alba Stitcher are hosting this sale, so you could pop along and join in if you like. And they started on the 1st of July. So I made a little start on mine. I'm using a 32 count Permin linen, and the colour is French Country Mocha. And I'm using the DMC threads. The pattern calls for NPI silks, but also lists DMC options. So I'm working with the DMC, and this is how far I got. Actually, I got a lot further, but I had a lot of unpicking to do because this was the late at night where I miscounted, blah, 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 blah. You know the story. So different frog came to visit and we ripped it and got rid of those. But I love this. I love how it's shaping up. The hashtag on Instagram is TudorBSal. If you're interested, go and have a look. What I find really interesting is how everyone is approaching this from a different starting position. So some people have started with the bee. Some people have started with the oval border that's around the bee. Some people started with the flowers. And as you can see, I started with the full border and then the vine work. So it's just really interesting to see that we all do things differently, and it doesn't really actually matter which way you do it, as long as you're enjoying it and choosing a way that you find easiest. So there you go. That is TudorBSal by Janine McGowan and hosted by Kim at the Contented Stitcher and Amanda at Alba Stitcher. Two floss tubers who are very worth going to watch if you haven't seen them already. Next up, I have 2 new starts for Jolly July. I shared my plans for Jolly July with you in the last video, and so far I've made starts on 2 of those projects. Let me just get this one the best way that you can see it. This is Christmas Wishes by Little Dove Designs. Oh, get it all in. It's very cute. I'm working on an 18 count Ada. It's a Rustico Ada. You can see it's kind of like oatmeal coloured, and it's quite small. It's very narrow and very long. I think it's 250 stitches long, by about 53 wide, something like that. So I'm quite happy with this progress. I did change out the white. I'm using the DMC called for colours, but I did change out the white because I think it called for blanc, and I just felt that it was blending in too much with the fabric, so I switched to B5200, which is a slightly brighter white, and I think it's working well. I know it's not the best contrast, but I think it's working well, and I think in an overall piece it will be grand. So that's Christmas Wishes. And then my other new start for Jolly July was And to All a Good Night by Stitching with the Housewives. I could not wait to get this on PDF. I was so excited and watching until the 1st of July came when it would be available, and then of course 1st of July came and I was kind of distracted by other more important things like my dad, but very shortly afterwards I was able to download the PDF pattern for this gorgeous design by Priscilla and Chelsea, and I have been able to make a start. And this is my first time stitching on a really dark fabric. This is, let me see, it's a 14 count Permin Ada on chalkboard black. So it does call for 28 count black even weave, but I'm using the 14 count Ada, which will be the same size, and this is Permin chalkboard black. And to all you can see, This will be the bottom of the sleigh, and then these are the reins for the reindeer, and they seem to have like little checkered blankets across their backs, so that's what these are. And then you can see "and to all." So I have enjoyed this. It is, as I said, my first time working on the dark fabric, and I didn't find it too bad actually. I can see the holes. What I find really hard to see actually is my needle, and it made me think that actually if you're working on black fabric, a white needle would be fantastic. So anybody out there who's got any connections to haberdashery firms could suggest they make a white needle, because what I found was when I was putting my needle to the fabric, it being a dark grey, it was blending in considerably, and I was finding that hard. And I think if it was white, you know, this obviously is not a needle, but you know, if it was white, the contrast of where the needle is hitting would make a big difference. So I know it sounds bizarre, but that's what came into my head when I was stitching, that a white needle would really help. Maybe somebody will pick it up and it will be a massive success, and they will credit me and I will be a millionaire. I'll be able to buy one of those houses in Hillsborough. Yeah, let's not hold our breath, shall we? So those were my Jolly July starts. As you know, I'm also doing WIPCO, so when the numbers were called this month, I have to work on my black work rainbow cross quilt, which I haven't done yet, but the other number that was called was to work on the Hope Celebration Small. Now, I'm going to show the chart briefly because it's a freebie. So it's Hope Celebration from Hello from Liz Matthews. This is a freebie. If you sign up to the Hello from Liz Matthews newsletter, just go to her website and sign up. Then periodically she sends out a freebie, and this is one of them. The freebies they're partial designs and redesigns of elements from some of her bigger designs. So this one she has called the Hope Celebration Small, and I am stitching it on, let me see, a 28 count Lugana in antique white. So here we go. 28 count Lugana in antique white, and I'm using Weeks Dye Works Busy Lizzie. Now it is supposed to have variegation, but it's so slight that I'm honestly not sure it's worth the effort of stitching one cross at a time. But maybe I'm being too harsh. In any case, I will continue to stitch it one stitch at a time. Perhaps when I've got more stitches in, it will be more obvious that there is variegation, but you can see from the thread that it's not massively variegated. There is some variegation there, but it's not massive. Sorry, it's not really great light to be showing you. Anyway, that was another new start, but it is a small, so I'm hoping that it won't take too long. And as I say, it's part of WIPCO, so I'm hoping to be able to find 10 hours to put into that this month to meet that WIPCO goal. So that's it really in terms of my WIP progress this last couple of weeks. It hasn't been as much as I would have liked, but it's also not been nothing, and it has been a little bit of sanity at the end of some very busy days. I do have plans that will continue with the WIPCO project, the Hope Celebration Small, and To All a Good Night. You know that I have big plans for July. I am having to reassess those, and you know that I'm going away to stitch with my stitchy friends. Well, my quilty friends, they're not cross stitchers, but I'll be taking some cross stitch with me. So I will take the Hope Celebration, and I will take And To All a Good Night, and I'm also going to take this, which I haven't confessed yet is a WIP. No, there just hasn't been an opportunity to show you here because I don't think since I started the Flosstube I've worked on it. This is Gather Here, another Hello from Liz Matthews pattern. I think this is just stunning. I think it looks like a woodcut, like a woodcut print that you would get. an ink print. I think it's just wonderful. Gather here with grateful hearts. So I'm hoping to hang this on this, where am I? Here, over here, this wall over here. This one. This is so hard to do. But the wall adjacent to these two pictures behind me. And that will hang then over my dining area, really. So gather here with grateful hearts. I think the sentiment is lovely, but I think the design is wonderful. I chose a Weeks Dye Works Glacial Melt. I think the code for is Thread Gatherer Silk in Smokestack, but I opted for this Glacial Melt, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I did make a start on this, I think back maybe in April time, March, April time. And let me get my board. Oh yes, I've been asked about the board as well. This is one of the Laurie Holt project boards, and there are tutorials for this on Laurie's channel, her YouTube channel, on her blog. And she also did a tutorial for the Fat Quarter Shop as well. So it's basically wadding on some foam core with a bit of binding around it. And I use this in my quilting, but it's obviously really, really handy for being able to show the cross stitch as well, and stops the light shining through and helps you get a better image. But the wadding that you use acts a bit like, I don't know if you know fuzzy felt. Child in the 70s in the UK will know about fuzzy felt, but it acts like fuzzy felt and things stick to it. So this is the beginning of Gather Here, you can see. Okay. So I love this. I'll take this away with me as well. These are the pieces that I'm planning to take away with me, are all pieces that I'm working on in hand. I do a bit of work in hand, a bit of work in hoop, a bit of work on a Q-snap, and a bit of work on frames. So I haven't really decided what I love best. I can do all, some I can do better than others, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So it'll be really handy when I'm traveling away, just to be able to take these projects that work in hand. But you can see, I hope, ooh, I said it sticks, but not when you fold your fabric over. So I need to hold on to that. You can see that thread is just beautiful. So there you go, that's Gather Here. That will come away with me, so that's in part of my plans for the next couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to that time away, and I might even try and convince my stitchy friends to say hello and give them a little bit of introduction on my next video. But we'll see how amenable they are to that suggestion. That's it really for my cross stitching. I do have a little bit of chat about quilty sewing things. If you're interested, hang around. If not, I understand completely. So feel free to go ahead and say goodbye now. But if you'd like to hear a little bit more about what I have to say on a quilty sewing front, then stick around for just a minute. As you can appreciate, with the kind of unplanned aspects of the last couple of weeks, I haven't really managed much of my quilting plans. I was hoping to quilt the Jolly July quilt that I had started last year, but lack of time and also lack of basting spray means that I haven't touched that yet. But there's still a bit of a month left, and maybe I'll get to that before the end of July. And if not, it's not really a big deal. It's just changing plans as I go along. I did make good progress and finished my gifts to take away to my quilty friends, and I'll give you a teeny weeny sneak peek of them, but it is only teeny weeny because sometimes I know they watch, so I don't want to give too much away before I actually see them. And I will show you more of what they are when I come back and when they have been gifted. Again, I didn't get to my granny square blocks and I didn't get to my spelling bee blocks, but those I will take away with me. And when the four of us are stitching together, those will be my focus pieces. So there will hopefully be progress on those after 4 lovely days of intentional sewing. What I wanted to do was just have a little chat, because lots of you have shown an interest in quilting. You either are quilters, have been quilters for years, or are showing an interest now in beginning to quilt and beginning to sew and beginning to use your machines. And I'm coming back to cross stitch from the other side of that, from being more experienced with the quilting and the sewing lately. So I wanted to point you in the direction, if you are interested, to point you in the direction of some good practical advice and tutorials and help from a wonderfully talented quilting teacher. Her name is Judith, and she is on YouTube as Just Jude Designs. She is on Instagram as Just Jude Belfast, and she has a Just Jude Designs website with a shop as well. So Just Jude Designs is run by my friend Judith. She and I were friends before we knew that we both had an interest in stitching of any kind. So we both are interested in crochet and embroidery a little bit, and patchwork mainly, and quilting. And we had been friends for a little while before we discovered that we both enjoyed and shared these passions. And then Judith became a teacher, and I went along to her classes. I learned most of what I can do from quilting from Judith and from her expertise. And I'm very pleased to say that you can join in and learn from her too now, because she is online. So Judith on her YouTube channel has a number of free tutorials that you can avail of. And I know that you're mostly here because you're cross stitchers, but there are tips and tricks and skills that she teaches, and she's very thorough. She teaches all this through her tutorials. Sorry, I got interrupted there, but as I was saying, Judith's tutorials are very thorough and detailed, and she will give you lots of practical tips and hints and little suggestions to make life easier in your sewing skills if you listen up to what she's saying. So on her YouTube channel, you'll find some scrappy tutorials. She loves scrappy work, and you can use Judith's tutorials to take out the principles. I think that's what I'm trying to tell you, especially those of you who are cross stitchers wanting to move into a bit of sewing and a bit of quilting, perhaps to augment your finishes or whatever it is. So take the principles out of Judith's tutorials. So for example, she has a tutorial on scrappy pouches, and from that you could learn about inserting a zip and zip ends in pouches. So you don't need to worry about the fact that Judith's pouches have a particular design or pattern on the outside of them, but you can learn about the measurements and the construction techniques for inserting zips and creating pouches, and maybe do that with your cross stitch pieces. You could go to her website and look at the free tutorials that she has on her website. These are not video tutorials, but sort of blog tutorials or written tutorials, and learn how to insert a cushion, a hidden zipper in a cushion backing, for example, and turn your piece of work into a cushion. But the YouTube tutorials, which she moved to video tutorials, as a result of lockdown and the pandemic restrictions, they've been really, really helpful, and they are out there. They're full of detailed information that would really, I think, benefit anyone who's wanting to make a move into that. So one of those tutorials is for a scrappy table topper, which is effectively a mini quilt, and you just make that with scraps from your stash. At the front of mine and the back. I use mine as a mat for my sewing machine in my stitchy space, which is that way. And I will show that to you someday, but not today because it's a real mess. But I use this little table topper underneath my sewing machine. Judith's tutorial will show you how to make these stacked coins, how to use your 1/4 inch seams, how to do binding, how to do the quilting using your quilting foot as well as a measurement guide. So, if you wanted to make your own project bags, this is one of the starting points. There are skills in this project tutorial that you could use to make a start on your project bag. And it's just a fun way of being introduced to techniques. So I know some of you go to cross-stitch retreats, and I've heard that you set up your table and you have this nice little designated space, and sometimes you will have a cross-stitch mat, for want of a nicer word. But you could imagine that you could put a cross-stitch panel into something like this with maybe different types of borders, but this would show you how to construct it if you're a beginner and don't know. As I mentioned, then there are the zipper pouch tutorials, which will help you with zippers. I'm trying to think what else there is. Oh yeah, there's a nice drawstring bag tutorial. So that is something that you could do with a piece that might otherwise be made into a drum. Actually, you can make into a nice little drawstring bag. So there are great principles all throughout Judith's tutorials. For those of you who have more experience, who are longer in the tooth, as it were, at quilting, you might like to look at some of her paid patterns on her website shop, because they take skills a little bit further, and there are beautiful quilts and sometimes bag patterns, things too, because she's a really good bag maker as well. One of the quilts classes that she sells that I would heartily recommend is a quilt that I undertook last year. And again, this was a move into this business as a result of pandemic. She wasn't able to teach in the classroom last year, so she ran her very first quilt along. And this is a fantastic quilt along with a beautiful quilt design, which I'll show you up here. So that is Judith's design. And it's a sampler quilt, and it is designed to teach you all sorts of different skills and techniques. So there's applique, there are Dresden plates, there's a little bit of English paper piecing. I'm trying to think what else there is. Flying geese, stars, paper piecing, all sorts. I'm going to show you mine in just a moment, but it's hard to hold up, so I'll just brace myself for that. But as I said, if you are a more experienced quilter but you'd like to broaden your skills, then this is a class that I would heartily recommend. It was a weekly quilt along class that Judith released to us week by week, but it's all there now to purchase as a full quilt along, and you have access to all of that all at once. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. There are techniques I might never try again, but I am so glad that I did have a go, just so that I could see. So this is my quilt. It's called the Kindred Spirits quilt from the Kindred Spirits quilt along. You're not going to get a good view of it because you can't see, and you have to forgive my wonky quilting because I like the patchwork a lot more than I like the quilting. So you can see at the top, it starts with flying geese, and these are the 1930s fabrics which I had the bag of scraps for to make gifts for my friends going away next week, week after. There were baskets that we made. That was about Y-seam piecing that week. This one is machine applique. This one was half square triangles practice. Then there's this glorious Dresden plate, which is huge in the scale of the quilt, and I'm sorry you're not getting a good view of it now. Can't quite remember the name of this block, but another scale. Sorry, I hope I'm not making you feel sick with all this waving around. Gorgeous star. I have a feeling that piece, that was paper piecing. So again, another skill that people are afraid of, but Judith's video tutorials break it down really nicely, I think. And let me just try and get the next portion for you. Some orange peels. That is needle turn applique. Sorry, I was just having a look to remember. I think there was an option to do that as machine applique, so the choice was yours. And then I take on the granny square block, and this one I also did as a needle turn. Again, I think because Judith had taught both skills, the needle turn and the machine applique, the choice was yours. And then this was curved piecing to make this gorgeous sunflower block. So you can see just how many skills you're getting out of this one paid class. It was fantastic. I mean, really, really fantastic. At the time, there was a Facebook group for the class as well. So it's not the same that you won't have that. But if you are interested in quilting and taking your skills a bit further, I highly, highly recommend this, and I will link it below. Some more curves to make a different shape. So you can see that from the curves, Judith has shown us that we can make like the sunflower and then make this beautiful, what I would describe as a bauble, but I guess there might be other ways of describing it. So some curves and some half square triangle type piecing in that one. That's another of the granny square modifications. Some spools, and then down here we have some English paper piecing. So this block was pieced together by your traditional wrapping your fabric around your paper, called English paper piecing, or EPP sometimes we refer to that as. And in this instance then that piece was machine stitched onto your background fabric. And the bottom is finished with another row of flying geese and an economy square in the centre. So I'm sorry that you can't see this all in one go. I'll put the picture back up again just to give you a refresher. And you can see, as you can see here, I used lots of my leftover bigger pieces to piece the backing for this quilt. It is enormous. It is actually a really big quilt, which is one of the reasons my quilting lines got so wonky. But never mind. I adore it. Sorry, I'm talking into the quilt now. Anyway, there you can see. Whew. Need muscles to hold that one up. But you can see all the different skills you're getting out of the one class. So highly recommend it. It's good value for money, and you will learn a lot, even if you decide that you won't ever do that technique again. So please go along and have a look at her website, her shop, her YouTube channel, and all the resources that Judith has made available there. If you are interested in the Kindred Spirits quilt that I've just shown, that is not in her shop, but well, it is in her shop, but it's not under patterns, it's under classes. So that's where you will find that, and I will again link that below. So yeah, pop over and see what Judith has to offer you. So that's it for today. Please do take a wee look in my show notes below, where you will find all of the information that I can link about Hillsborough Castle, about the projects I've mentioned and the people I've mentioned. I hope that if you have plans for the next couple of weeks, that they will be good ones. I wish you all every blessing. Thank you again for spending some time with me, and I wish you will stay well and stitch happy. Bye.